Hi everybody. Hope this is on. Okay. Let's see if it's on and you can hear me well. This is day 1250. Is it 54? No, it should be more than that. Oh, well, 1254 days. And I think it's more. But we're working hard and we're working on that timeline. Absolutely. Inch by inch, morsel by morsel. Thank you for being so patient with us, because, the system is not what we think it is. You can't just go to the FBI or go to the CID. You can't go to the chain of command. Um, you can't go to the DA office. Um, you just, everything is so much more complicated and corrupt. They don't do what they say they're supposed to do. They don't do their oath of office. They don't answer open records requests. In this case, absolutely, not all the time, and they should all the time. And there's so much tampering of records, of even timestamps. I mean, you got the DA in being accused of tampering with timestamps. That's a district attorney, uh, that his whole career, his whole job is determined by timestamps, and he's tampering with them. Um, it really is, really is something to see. And so we're coming up to a new year. Another notice of intent for legal action was put in today, in Team Fire Richard Halliday, and I think that's really important to let everyone know that. So that's three. That's three. Um, and, so we absolutely are out to win, are out to win these legal battles. And, it's just lots of preparation and lots of collecting of hard evidence, circumstantial evidence, and of course, irregularities. So, one of the hard evidences are eyewitness testimonies. Eyewitness testimonies are hard, hard evidence. Um, Also, records, timestamps. Um, Gosh, and they're tampering with them. But also videos, videos, and that's why videos by DES, and by Tavita Nusa and Lalani Hart, they said uh, that videos were being tampered with. Um, of course, they were um, tampering with files, and that has been investigated, not properly, but investigated and still is being investigated. So we're just, they're very good at delay, delay, delay. They make so much money off of every one of these cases, because as long as they're working on these cases, especially a murder case, then they will get taxpayer funds. And so there's not really, I mean, there's so much incentive to just keep cases in pieces, slow them down, and keep the gravy train going. I mean, really, that's uh, because you say, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Well, um, murder cases, they love them because they are very, very expensive to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer doesn't really realize it, um, how much money, millions of dollars, go into cases, murder cases. And so we're still working on the John Briggs timeline. absolutely going to, not today, because we had so much breaking news today. Breaking news today, unfortunately, that I can't really divulge everything because it is hard evidence, hard evidence against the interference in our son's case that, yeah, was brought to our attention, this huge lead today, because of numbers, case numbers, file numbers, folio numbers, everything like that. So this is really important to address right away. So the timeline, absolutely, we are working on John Briggs's timeline. Right now I have three of them. Part one, part two, part three. I released part one. I do need to make some adjustments there, but it is really important for everyone to see because you can see clearly when you put up, and even if you put up on a poster in the room and just look at a timeline, it really reveals the activities going on, and the the timing reveals also that John Briggs, being the man in charge of all murder cases, okay, he's the man in charge of all the murder cases, uh, under Jaime Esparza, who was there for, I bet, 30 years, right? 30 years. And then Yvonne Rosales, who was an upset, and then Bill Hicks. So, who is, seems to be violating even his oath of office requirements. Wowzer. The Constitution of Texas doesn't mean much to him. It doesn't look like that the Constitution of Texas means much to him. So if the Constitution of the very state he lives in doesn't mean much to him, seems like it, then what about the Constitution of the United States of America? You know, uh, yeah, it explains a lot. It explains a lot. But what I wanted to go through is this article again. I want to go through this article, and I am going to put it up because I think it's really, really important. And it's by Medium, and I've never heard of Medium before until God gave us this beautiful article um, that has hard evidence in it. Okay, he is corroborating his unbelievable story, and it's a pretty long one. And he wrote it August 4th, 2020. So a year and a day after the August 3rd, which is Dallas Hart's birthday. You know, that's a coincidence, y'all, right? That's a coincidence. Um, After that mass shooting that happened on August 3rd. And the writer is David Harrell. So, and the name of the story is called Inconvenient Questions. What really happened in El Paso 1 year after the devastating mass shooting at an El Paso Walmart? Basic questions remain unanswered. But you know what? He answers a lot of questions in this. And so I thought that I would, it is so different from the mainstream narrative that I thought I'd take the time to go through it. So on August 3rd, 2019, in El Paso, Texas, it came under attack. Ground zero was Walmart at Cielo Vista. Over a period of several minutes, people in the packed superstore, and it was packed, and its parking lot, ranging in age from 15 to 90, were methodically gunned down. Okay, so this is a parking lot and um, in in the Walmart. That's very interesting. Okay, that's very interesting because one thing I know about living in Texas, it's a big state. Everything is big in Texas. Everything is big in Texas. So that parking lot's big, the store is big, the mall is big, everything's big in Texas. So that means there's distances, and distances take time to move from what point to point. So just keep that in mind when you're reading, following along with this really important article. It was the 18th deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. 23 died. More than 24 others will carry the physical and psychological trauma for life. Like all highly publicized mass shootings, including two others that happened elsewhere within the very same week, two others that happened elsewhere within the very same week, the attack on El Paso served to heighten an atmosphere of terror. It also was seized upon as a socio-political wedge to further divide Americans. Absolutely. And even the other two mass shootings, this is clearly political. Uh, I believe it's a totally political attack against Donald Trump, against the MAGA, right? Whether you belong to it or not, it is an attack against them. Absolutely. They do not want to make America great again, whoever is writing these articles. As far as the ones that are giving the narrative that Patrick Crusius was the lone wolf shooter, that is such a bunch of garbage. Now that we know that he was autistic and that he even turned himself in. So let's read some more. But these mass shootings were definitely methodical, but not methodical by Crucius. Okay, I don't think. That's my opinion. I think it was methodical by those that are trying to keep political power, that their whole business plan is reliant on the military contracts, and they they wanted to, their military contracts were threatened. Bliss was supposed to go away. Fort Bliss was supposed to go away. And, so their gravy train is threatened. And so I think this is really important to keep in mind. And those are my opinions, but let's read forward. So here is a link that shows you how, and you can go to it. So he even provides this video link where, you had these, it was all about going against Hispanics. It's, you know, this is a racist, move or crime. And, people were, and I believe there are a group that, and because this is my experience in Team Find Richard Halliday, absolutely there is political activists that are paid that come into a disaster such as ours when our son was murdered, and they will friend up to you. And if you do not let your mind be moved the way they want to move it, they want to, be your puppet master to you. They want to pull your strings. They want to twist your head, make you say things, make you think things. And if you don't agree with it, if you say, well, thank you very much, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that Richard just walked away. I believe that he was there's too many irregularities here. There's too much hard evidence. We have Nadal Baim, we have the MP, we have Danae Katzen, the con artist. There's just too much hard evidence that shows that there was really foul play in all of this. So I'm not going to go along with your narrative and just walk away and say, okay, Richard's somewhere out there. Um, and not get answers, right? And not get answers. And the irregularities are so huge when it comes to the military, to see them shaking like they were, to see them committing crimes against humanity, for staging a task force find Richard Halliday that had no op ord, not coming forth with the canines information, just on and on and on. Their lack of transparency, the lack of them letting us talk to the platoon leader. Where was Captain Park? Where was Captain Yoshida? Where was Lieutenant Colonel Roddick? And Richard's records are all messed up and his identity is stolen and we're getting threats and they are just, they're participating in the obstruction of justice in our case. So, absolutely, they're up to no good. And so it's not Patrick Crucius that's this white supremacist. It is um, it is a group of people that want to protect their their gravy train. That's what it is. And that's my opinion. Absolutely. So every group it seemed, sought to cast blame on its political enemies. Right wingers circulated rumors that the culprits were the left wing extremists of Antifa. Left wingers, including Democratic presidential candidates jockeying for position, blamed guns as usual, promising to take them from law abiding owners, and accused President Trump and his voter base of stoking white nationalist hatred. Well, I don't think it's either thing because where is Bill Hicks and he's a Republican, right? But where is Veronica Escobar and she's a Democrat? So this is not about parties, y'all. This is about the gravy train. That's what this is. This is about taxpayers being pay, have and anybody has to pay those taxes. Everybody has to pay those taxes. And the worst type of tax is the inflation tax, and people don't even realize it because it is the secret um, tax. So yeah, it's that's what it's about. It's not this white nationalist hatred, no. But almost immediately after the attack, a man surrendered himself and confessed that he was the shooter. He said a news outlet, so said a news outlet citing an anonymous source. I wonder if that was maybe Texas Hard or Dallas Hard or maybe it was Danae Katzen. Maybe it was who was that anonymous source? I don't know, and that is me just being, you know, facetious, um, because of the information that we have. An unnamed source also leaked two images of what appeared to be that same individual, 21-year-old Petra Crucius of Allen, Texas, walking into the store wielding a rifle. Well, and wearing eye protection, goggles, and hearing protection. Um, we really have to say that. Within another hour or so, seeming confirmation of the white nationalist theory emerged. An anti-Hispanic manifesto titled "The Inconvenient Truth." Was that AI generated? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that was written in his hand. Was it part of the uh, studies that they were doing there in El Paso, and I believe it was at Park University, and I believe it was at UTEP, and I believe it was at New Mexico State University, where they were studying mass shootings, active mass shooters in mass shootings, and that was part of the Fort Bliss training. Was Patrick Crucius Fort Bliss? Was he in training? And was manifestos and all of that part of the training? Was this, you know, trained for, right? I, I don't know. And I don't, I think I have every right to question the military and the media and the government officials and whatever investors that want to keep the gravy train going, every right to question intentions and theories, right? They like to give us that stupid germ theory or the stupid germ theory or the stupid moon theory or the stupid um, what is the Darwin, stupid Darwin. That's the racist. That is the most racist theory. Absolutely. You want to talk racist? And these people that spew that we shouldn't be racist are the ones that spew this theory. And it's so racist. To preserve the the privileged few or the race, he wants to the main race or whatever he wants to preserve. Darwin is such a racist. And that theory gets spewed out all the time. And I just can't stand it. And I don't, I've told my children I can't stand that theory. And it's stupid. And it's so, and his book, oh, favored races, right? To preserve favored races, the favored race. Um, his book is so boring and it just is not scientific. It's a terrible, terrible book. And that's why it's not required reading because they spew it out, but they spew what they want to, and they don't let you require, they don't require the reading of what Darwin said because then you really wouldn't like it. You would be like, what? This guy's a nutcase. So, yeah, I definitely want to know the theories behind this Walmart third, which is Dallas's birthday. Um, I want to know the theories behind it, and let's hash it out. Let's see where the evidence leads us, because the evidence is not leading us to the narrative that the mainstream media wants us to. I can tell you that right now, just reading through it all. It has so many holes in it. You can't even call it Swiss cheese because there's so many holes in it. So, yeah, so let's go through it some more. Within another hour or so, seeming confirmation of, oh, yeah, that we already read that one. Open shut case, right? Patrick Crucius, P. Crucius, the same guy, open shut case. He has to be the one and he has to be the shooter, and we'll just close our eyes and dream away into our little plugged in narrative into our brain. But no, thank you. You're not plugging. I was talking about The Matrix yesterday. My husband hates that movie, and when I first watched it, I said, "Well, why do you hate it?" He goes, "Oh, it just grosses me out that they would plug into the back of your head. It just grosses me out, you know." And I'm like, okay, so that's a good point. So do not, inject, plug anything into our brains, right? Let us think for ourselves. So, a state grand jury didn't take long to indict Crucius on numerous capital murder and other charges the following month, and a federal jury piled on additional charges in February. Well, this is, a state grand jury. Okay, so this is has to be John Briggs involved in this because he's in charge of all murder cases. Okay, so he's involved in this big time. Which, excuse me, I'm going to scrutinize that. Anything that he does. Um, so few noticed later when Crucius pled not guilty to all charges. He pled not guilty. He's probably like, hey, I thought this was a training mission. Was this a training? I thought this was just a fake training mission. Uh, you know, um, but maybe I did shoot a few people. The evidence. Where's the evidence? We need to see the videos. We need to see the evidence. We need to see the forensics. We need to see the bullets. We need to see that the bullets came from his weapon. Um, yeah, I think it's really important. So we might assume that it'll all work itself out in the trial, but that requires assuming Crucius will even make it that far. Students of mass shootings, political assassinations, and other notorious crimes or criminal conspiracies, such as Jeffrey Epstein's saga, are well aware that suspects frequently experience untimely demise at the hands of others or allegedly their own. He's still alive. He's still alive. So thank you for this article because I think that makes everyone aware that we want to keep him alive until the trial. But he did get convicted 90 life sentences, right? 90 life sentences. So I don't understand um, why John Briggs does not, with Bill Hicks. John Briggs is the one that pulls all the cords or the pulls all the knobs, levers, whatever, pushes the buttons of Bill Hicks. I mean, because he's in charge of the murder cases, right? Why don't they decide to just hand this over to the federal government and it would be closed and Crucius would be, in prison? It's already done deal for him, right? But that's not what they're doing because they want the gravy train. It's so disgusting. So, do key witnesses, one of the first witnesses to tell what he saw and heard on August 3rd, is already dead at age 23. So, do key witnesses, one of the first eyewitnesses to tell what he saw and heard on August 3rd, is already dead at 23. Yeah. Devils hide in details, and this story is full of details that refuse to add up. One of the basic things we want to know when an arrest is announced is, did we get the bad guy? And did we get all the bad guys? Did we get all the bad guys? The answer is far from clear. Several direct eyewitnesses at Walmart described seeing a shooter who didn't look like Crucius. Some, in fact, reported seeing multiple shooters working together. Witnesses also reported gunfire from multiple directions and multiple buildings. And I have my suspicions of who these people are. I do. I absolutely do. And so I'm not at liberty to say, but I do. And do I believe that there were multiple shooters? I really do. I really do. I believe there's multiple shooters because of Crucius, because of watching Crucius, because of listening to Crucius, and what other people said to Crucius and how he responded. It's not, yeah. And I think anyone that reads body language, that knows autistic individuals, will absolutely be very, very close to the same thoughts that Team Fire Richard Halliday has. And also, there's eyewitnesses. So let's listen. Following a familiar pattern, those reports vanished from subsequent retellings of the story. You mean our media will withhold information from us? You mean our police department will withhold information from us? That our army that was there would withhold information from us? Do you think that they would do that? The DA, do you think John Briggs would withhold information from us and say, oh, well, it's under investigation, and give us excuses? Yeah, I think so. So it became all about the lone nut influenced by extreme ideas, just like Lee Harvey Oswald, Timothy McVeigh, Nicholas Cruz, and other such characters, who've stumbled their helpless way across the stage of American political violence theater. That was brilliant. Numerous other details that inconveniently failed to fit the narrative also were trimmed away quickly and without explanation as news stories were updated. In some cases, however, the what is that word? Disparate data remain hanging out there, as do the disturbing questions they raise. So here's a witness. The witnesses. There were two people. I could see their weapons and the bullets firing. If you were paying close attention to the news, especially from alternative outlets, you may have encountered Adriana Quezada, one of the first eyewitnesses interviewed in the aftermath of the shooting. In remarkable interviews like the one below, she told reporters on the scene that she had seen 3 or 4 men dressed in black, tudo and negro, firing weapons from near the front of the store. What? The video is unavailable? They've taken the video down. I mean, yeah, it's always like that. They take the video down. Yeah, they were the ones shooting because I could see their weapons and the bullets firing, Quesada said, mimicking with her hand the motion of shell casings ejecting from a rifle. She also said the shooters came running in contrast to the person answering to Crucius's description, who reportedly walked inside the store in a calm and confident state. Yeah, so why am I reading this article? I want to let everyone know that getting to the bottom of the Walmart case is getting to the bottom of Richard's case. So somewhat less well known is the testimony of Ray Holgan, who saw people getting shot in front of the store. He told CBS News he thought he saw at least 2 people with guns. You've almost certainly not seen or heard of Elvira, a Walmart employee identifiable only by a name tag in this Telemundo report. Asked whether she saw the shooter, she said, "Eran dos personas." There were two people, repeating that assertion several times. She said she saw the 2 inside, at the front of the store near the McDonald's, and that one of them wore beige pants and a shirt that was verde, green or light green, verde clara. So you could hear double shots in like 2 separate areas of the store. So another who reported a shooter in all black was Robert Gerardo, an Air Force combat veteran who told the El Paso Times he and his 87-year-old mother narrowly missed being shot as people nearby were targeted. It's quite an experience seeing a lady getting her face blown off. Excuse me for saying that, he said. Gerardo said the shooter he encountered was wearing all black. He had a mask. He You could see his eyes, though, and that's about it. This guy's not in all black, nor does he appear to be wearing a mask. This is supposed to be Crucius, right? The details about the shooter's dress have been removed from EPT story. At present, it remains in the Lubbock Avalanche Journal's version. Gerardo actually reported 2 separate sightings of a shooter. He told the Washington Post he and his mother were exiting the store's east side when he saw an individual shooting at people in the parking lot, then entering the store through the west entrance. Rather than trying to run with his 87-year-old mom, Gerardo ducked back into the east entrance lobby. The two tried to hide behind vending machines as shots continued to ring out within for several minutes. That decision nearly cost Gerardo his life. A shooter emerged from within the store and pointed a rifle straight at him. For some reason, however, the shooter spared Gerardo and walked out the door. Well, was he Hispanic? He has a Hispanic name. I thought this was a racist attack. Why would he wait while a single man allegedly spent several minutes making the rounds of the store interior, shooting dozens of people, and why not make a run for his truck or any shelter outside? Well, in the El Paso Times account, Gerardo said he didn't know what to do, adding, I couldn't tell whether the gunshots were coming from the outside or the inside. An unidentified, yeah, so he's saying there's multiple shooters, some outside, some inside. Are they inside? Are they outside? Where do I run? Where is safety? If I run outside, will I get shot? If I, try to hide in here, will I get shot? So an unidentified woman who called in to KTSM 9 live on the air at about 1:30 p.m., so that's about 3 hours after the shooting, claimed an even clearer recollection of the sound of weapons firing from 2 different directions. The woman said she hid behind racks of toilet paper and listened. At one point, you could hear double shots, but they're coming in like 2 separate areas of the store. So there's one closer to me, and you could hear one from farther away, like if it was on the opposite side of the store. That means this is not a lone wolf. I mean, how many witnesses? These are eyewitnesses. How many witnesses do we want? These are eyewitness accounts. And why would the narrative of a lone wolf and blame it on Patrick Crucius, and even if he was part of it? Do we have the right shooter? Do we have the shooter? Do we have all the shooters? That's the question. So the gunshots that never happened. They heard gunshots and they said, help me, help me. Besides the bloodbath at Walmart, there are reports of separate shots fired inside or in the direction of Cielo Vista Mall, whose entrance is 1/3 a mile away from Walmart, because Texas is big, right? During the same space of time, whether any of those shots actually struck anyone remains unclear. But a more fundamental question is why authorities turned to denying those reports after initially acknowledging them. So, yeah. Walmart employee Leslie Diaz told the El Paso Times at the scene that she and others had fled the sound of shooting entering Walmart in the diagram below and exited through the back. That's number 2. They went across the parking lot toward Dillard's. she said. They were pushed to head in a different direction toward a movie theater. Okay, so here she is running into Walmart, then running across, then here fire bullets fired at this mall area, and then they ran to number 4. So I think that is amazing witness testimony. And he gave us a map. He gave us a map. And here's the video too, if it's still there. An eyewitness whose live video, an eyewitness report, this is an eyewitness report, were published early and often, and who was widely hailed as a hero for his attempts to save children that day. This was Glendon Oakley Jr. So here he is, Glendon Oakley Jr. from Fort Bliss. Oakley, an Army private first class stationed at Fort Bliss, said he was at a sports apparel store in the mall, apparently Fans, located on the western side near Dillard's West, when a kid ran in shouting there was an active shooter at Walmart. Oakley dismissed the report. For one, it's just a little kid, and two, you're at the mall and not at Walmart. So how do you know that? And continued to a Foot Locker store. And I just heard 2 gunshots, and a whole bunch of people just started running around screaming. Employees at Foot Locker lowered the security cage over the storefront, he told CBS, and then decided to reopen it so they and customers could make a run for the exits. At first, Oakley drew his weapon, but then put it away as he saw several unaccompanied children in a play area near Dillard's North, screaming for their parents. I started trying to grab kids and bring them to safety, Oakley told CNN, out of fear that a stray bullet could fly by. Priscilla Zavala, interviewed by the Los Angeles Times, was with her husband and 4 children at Build-A-Bear, located in the mall a few spaces down from Dillard's West. She said, "We heard 1 shot and everybody was running towards Dillard's, westward towards the parking lot and Walmart. And it was crazy. The men went to go check it out while the women were all scared and grabbed all the babies." Then, she said, store employees closed the front gate, turned off overhead music, and gave each child a teddy bear for reassurance as they sheltered in the back room. "I knew they were terrified," she said. "I could see it in their face. My son was like, 'Is the bandit out there?' We could hear the SWAT team telling them, 'Get down, put your hands up.'" Listen to that. Let's listen to that again. "I could see it in their face. My son was like, 'Is the bandit out there?' We could hear. We're in the mall. We're in Build-A-Bear. We're in a back room in Build-A-Bear. And we could hear the SWAT team telling them, 'Get down, put your hands up.' I think they were trying to figure out who's the good guys and who's the bad guys." Zavala said her husband, like Oakley, a military member, wanted to actually go and get the shooter. That was edited out later by the Los Angeles Times, but was preserved in Tech One Media's reprinting of the Times story. If you've seen any coverage of El Paso at all, you've seen Raymond Espinosa's cell phone video on endless loop. The one from behind a security cage in a Finish Line store, with heavily armed tactical officers running by. But it's almost certain you haven't heard his actual story, as told by KFOX 14 anchor, I hope I'm saying this right, uh, Conchita Callahan or Concita Callahan. Right after selling shoes to a customer and her children, they returned screaming as they heard gunfire, and they said, "Help me, help me!" Espinosa's Espinosa shut the store's gate, and they waited inside. Finish Line is located at the center second level of the mall, in between two open atriums. It's not clear which floor the gunshot sounds originated from, but sound would easily travel between the two. Another questionable, ambiguous video clip shows an employee at J.C. Penney, located adjacent to both Dillard's West and Build-A-Bear, talking to a crowd of anxious customers. What you normally don't hear is the dialogue. The woman says, "The shooter's that way?" The J.C. Penney employee, "He's over here in Dillard's and Walmart, but over there," again pointing towards Dillard's. "We don't know if he's there, but the cops are there." The official story says the only shots fired were way over at Walmart. Let's look again at the distances involved. Walmart and Cielo Vista Mall are roughly 1,800 feet apart. That's 1/3 of a mile, or 2 Manhattan City blocks, 3 in Chicago. Look at this. Foot Locker. On this, I'll keep it here. On the Saturday before kids went back to school, an estimated 1,000 to 3,000 people were at Walmart, and probably similar numbers at the mall. With traffic to match, the shopping complex also borders Interstate 10. Build-A-Bear, Foot Locker, and Finish Line are well inside the mall, with Foot Locker being on the east side, opposite of the Walmart side. You can see that here. Here's Foot Locker. Here's Walmart. Anybody who's been inside a large shopping mall buzzing with ambient noise, air conditioning, probably music from multiple stores, reverberating voices, kids running, insulated from outdoors by multiple walls and doors, surrounded with traffic noise on all sides, realizes that nobody at those locations could have heard distant gunshots from 1/3 of a mile away, let alone believe the sound originated nearby. Did these witnesses include Priscilla Savala, her husband, or Oakley, the latter two being both servicemen experienced with weapons, mistake some other loud noise for gunfire? Sean Bryan of K Fox arrived at the mall within minutes and described as an estimated 200 cops swarmed the place from every angle, including 3 choppers in the air. You could tell that the shooter had come on through the west side of the mall at the Dillard's West, Bryan explained. I pulled into the parking lot and there was employees running out of the building, scattering everywhere. CBS 4 anchor Shelton Dodson also arrived at Cielo Vista Mall within minutes of the shooting. In a live broadcast later, he described the massive response to the mall as well as gunshots that had been reported there. Dodson opined that a single shooter would have to have driven between the two locations. I think it would be unlikely that he actually ran that distance, and then I don't think he could cover that much ground, in fact, and fire as many shots as he apparently did. Whether Crucius ran with an AK-47 through third-mile obstacle course of driveway landscaping in a full busy parking lot and through a mall entrance to fire a few additional shots, or drove there, one thing is clear: no one has come forward to say they saw him do it. Oakley also seemed to describe a very quick police response at the mall. Soon or immediately after he heard the two gunshots and attempted to lead children to safety. Then a whole bunch of mall cops were running around with their M4s, military rifles. He told CNN's Wolf Blitzer it's unclear how he identified them as such. While neither he nor any of the other witnesses, and I want to repeat this here, then a whole bunch of mall cops were running around with their M4s, military rifles. Can you fire shots and then be blanks like this, like if it's a training thing? I, I, I just, it's weird. This is just so weird. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre that the mother of a missing, murdered soldier, 4 years after this happened, has to live stream about evidence, about witnesses that are being kept from the public, about a mass shooting in their community. It is just so bizarre. While neither he nor any of the other witnesses quoted above said they saw an identifiable shooter or saw anyone get shot, Oakley said people were saying two guys got shot right close to where we were. Quote, people were saying two guys got shot right close to where we were. PFC Oakley was just 4 months home from a deployment to Kuwait. He had received his rifle marksmanship badge, 5 Army service medals. He must have been in Kuwait. Yeah, they were all deployed. Richard was just home too, from Qatar. 5 Army service medals and 1 service ribbon due to his actions that day, which were somewhat overblown by media. He was widely lauded as a hero. He received an Army Commendation Medal and was personally commended by President Trump during his visit to El Paso a few days later. Oakley shared some video of the pandemonium as he and others ran out of the mall with hands up, which, like Espinoza, has been broadcast endlessly by media. However, it appears there was more information he wasn't able to share. Screenshots of purported posts from his Twitter account claim that he was later told to delete everything. Those were my orders. He said, I was told to delete everything. Those were my orders. For months afterwards, a team of troll accounts hovered around seemingly wherever Oakley was mentioned on the internet to call him a liar and a con artist. Oh my gosh, that reminds of this. Oh my God, the harassment, the endless harassment and the stealing of our identity and the stealing of Richard's identity, and just these troll accounts, and they just make them and they post all the time on Find Richard Halliday. It's just their standard operating procedures, these little demons. They're just nasty paid people. They have to be paid, absolutely. And one of them told me they get paid. They don't have a problem. They don't have a problem with money because they're one of the lucky few. That's what I was told. Oh, really a nasty person. Oakley was mentioned on the internet to call him a liar and a con artist, using an assortment of obscenities, rhetorical fallacies and fabrications. And here's an example. I'm not going to read through it because it's just so they gets, this is a clean one, and it still has vile and vulgar message. I just hate it. Among other tactics, the trolls claimed he bragged about his heroism. Actually, he mostly shunned the hero label and implored um, reporters to focus on the victims. They put words in his mouth and posted fragments of video. This sounds like Bob Moore. Was it Bob Moore that did this? Or was it Borderzine? Was it Borderzine that did this? Or I don't know. We need to look. It would be very interesting to know uh, who put words in his mouth and posted fragments of video that were falsely said disproved his story about the children at the mall. The smear campaign got a boost from the El Paso Police Department on September 11th when it issued a curiously worded non-denial denial of Oakley's story. The statement was initially prompted by media questions raised about the hero story of a different victim's witness, Christopher Grant, who also happens to be an African American service member. So El Paso Police Department's ambiguous, I know this is long, but it is so important, ambiguously crafted statement was seized by the trolls and refashioned into the false claims that the police said Oakley lied, as well as a repeated evidence-free claim that he was under criminal investigation by the Army for stolen valor. The trolls also claimed Oakley lied about the gunshots in the mall, the part of his testimony they may have been seeking to discredit. On April 8th, Oakley was reported to have been found dead in his quarters at Fort Bliss. He was 23. To this day, no details or cause of death have been released. So he is getting death threats. He was getting, all kinds of trolls, and the Army did nothing. Or did they? Did they do him harm? Because they did Richard harm. The CID did Richard harm. So, yeah, why didn't they move him out of there? Deploy him again. Reassign him. Protect him. Officials said the timeline of official statements in the wake of the shooting traces the dueling narratives about what happened. Initially, public statements reflected all the eyewitness accounts, but over the next few hours, any facts not pointing to a single shooter were dropped down the memory hole. Here are some examples. All times are El Paso local time. So at 11:06 a.m., supposedly only 1/2 hour after he began shooting, Patrick Crucius drives up to police near the crime scene and surrenders, allegedly telling them, "I'm the shooter." And he wasn't even breathing heavy. You know? Half an hour, just a half an hour after it began. About 11:30, Office of Mayor D. Margot announces 3 suspects in custody. Sheriff's SWAT team also reports 3 in custody. According to KVIA's Will Heron, it's unclear whether all 3 were suspected gunmen or whether Crucius was included among the 3. So he, yeah, that is so crazy. At 11:11, El Paso Police Department, the scene is still active. We have multiple reports of multiple shooters. Please avoid area police conducting search of a very large area. Media staging will be given when area is secure. about 129 K Fox. What we do have confirmed is that it began in the Walmart and that the shooter or potentially shooters ran east to the Cielo Vista Mall area and ran into the West Side Dillards. And so all the police presence responded to that end of the mall. Live video feed from the mall shows police are still there, aiming rifles at the back of the building. At what that means there's something going on in the mall, right? 1:43, about 3 hours after the first 911 call, and about 2.5 hours after the arrest of Crucius, another El Paso Police Department spokesman, Sergeant Robert Gomez, takes over and tells reporters, "We have ruled out multiple shooters." He then says police are still ruling out that no one else is a suspect and that there were reports of gunfire at several locations, mainly at Walmart and the Cielo Vista Mall, again mentioning Dillard's. At 3:23, Gomez gives yet another variation on earlier statements. "We have one person detained and one person in custody right now." One person in custody? Gomez can provide no information about any of the others who'd been detained or released, nor about the path of the shooter, the duration of the shooting, the weapon, the caliber, number of rounds fired, etc. Gomez states that the off-duty police officer are among those who responded to the mall. Although nobody appears to have asked, he makes a point to say that no officers discharged their weapons. So he makes a point to say, even though no one asked, no officers discharged their weapons. So about 5:12, Shelby Cap of KTSM reports, they say that at this time they're not going to say if anything happened to Cielo Vista Mall, but they're keeping it contained to the Walmart, but that both places are secured right now. At 5:21, Mills Hayes of K Fox, still speaking as if multiple shooters have not been ruled out. "Still 2 chopters are circling the mall," she reports. 5:44, in a joint emergency management press conference, Police Chief Greg Allen deflects a question about the number of shooting locations. Again, those are details that we're going to keep under play right now. As far as the investigation goes, we have one weapon, and that was put on social media. And I'm sure you're aware of that, which was the AK-47. We don't know if those pictures released in social media were the actual individuals. So right now, again, going back to the fair process of this individual, we don't want to taint the individual by matter-of-factly saying things right now. And then a reporter, perhaps the same woman, asks what happened with the other suspects. Allen deflects to false reports and shooters at other area shopping centers, but never answers the actual question. Allen says, again, the initial information coming in was several suspects. That information was put out to the field. We had misleading information going to different locations as far as supermarkets. Costco was one location. Dillard's was another. Everyone was responding to that. Social media somewhat influenced that. But in the final analysis of all this, a suspect was arrested at Sunmount and Viscount, which is on the west side of the Walmart, out there where the initial shooting took place. This may mark the launch of the sub-narrative that dismissed the eyewitness reports of multiple shooters, and I want to say the multiple eyewitness reports. Let's not forget to say that. This is multiple eyewitness reports of multiple shooters and gunshots in the mall as internet misinformation. Okay? A great deal of misinformation, they're calling it, and hoaxes were indeed spread across the internet. Some of it probably was posted by insensitive kids trolling, but the sheer weight of deliberately posted bullcrap appears to indicate a coordinated disinformation effort. Some social media accounts posted fake pictures they claimed were one of the shooters. Old photos from elsewhere were circulated as fresh photos from Cielo Vista. Anonymous individuals called 911 to give fake tips about shooters at other stores in nearby cities. Some frivolous circulated unproven claims that the shooters were confirmed Antifa, and sketchy social media accounts claimed that their cousin's ex girlfriend's uncle was in the FBI and there were 18 shooters roaming the streets of El Paso. Yes, all of that was false. No, none of those anonymous social media hoaxes had the slightest thing to do with what actual eyewitnesses like Quesada, Oakley, Zavala, and the others stated they saw and heard with their own eyeballs and ears to media and to Allen's own officers. Still, Allen had let slip two easily missed words: a suspect, an initial shooting, thereby neither confirming the reports' queries nor denying them exactly. In its similarly vague September 11 statement, responding to Oakley's Cielo Vista Mall story, the department said all surveillance video is being withheld because it's evidence for the trial. Evidence of what? And whose trial? So here's Anna. According to my law enforcement source in El Paso who gave me the apprehended shooter's name and age, a second suspect was killed when police responded to the Walmart shooting. Police have not disclosed this information yet. Mayor says otherwise, but my source says second suspect is dead. Finally, an update on Saturday. A law enforcement official in El Paso told me the second shooter suspect was killed. Official just told me police detained an armed man at Walmart they thought was an accomplice. The person was cleared, released, and not wounded. Not clear why he was marked dead. So what really happened? At least 3 separate witnesses said they saw multiple persons with guns shooting at Walmart. 2 of them said 2 shooters, and others said 3 or 4. 2 said they saw a shooter in black or all black, unlike the photos of Patrick Crucius, where he was wearing beige cargo pants. One of those witnesses added that the shooter wore a mask and that only his eyes were visible. One witness said he saw a male gunman in a green or light green shirt and beige pants. At least 2 witnesses in Walmart indicated that it sounded like gunfire was coming from different directions. At least 3 persons apparently said they heard shots fired inside Cielo Vista Mall. Another appears to have heard shots from that general direction. One person, a reporter, claims she was told by a law enforcement source that a suspect had been killed. News reports and hearsay suggest that many other direct eyewitnesses may have reported multiple shooters to police. Yet just hours after the crime, before even a fraction of the evidence could have been examined, official police statements were narrowing their focus to one shooter. Why? Behind the scene, my purpose here is to collect and collate the eyewitness accounts that clash with the canonical narrative, not to decide the debate or accuracy of perception and memory in the traumatic events that can get complex, and it's all too easy to just cherry pick the science we agree with. Before internet experts who sagely proffer cliches about the fog of war and claim that people forget everything and hallucinate when they're frightened, we could find studies that claim to prove the very opposite, that the adrenaline of the fight or flight response actually burns memories into our neural circuitry. It's also important to realize these reports to media were offered within minutes to an hour or two after the occurrence. And the very fact that multiple individuals agreed in one or more respects about what they saw or heard demand attention rather than dismissal. Could witnesses have contaminated each other despite the best efforts of police to segregate them? It's possible, as there were literally hundreds of witnesses milling about at the crime scene, nearly every one of them carrying a mobile device. Of course, contamination could work in the opposite direction as well. It's quite possible an official narrative put out early and often could shape witnesses' recollections. If we are prone, that's a psyop. They could do a psyop, they could do a hypnosis, right? If we are prone to recall seeing different things from what we actually saw, we're also capable of editing what we did see in order to conform to outside pressure. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe us, the authorities. Rosa Calderon, 71, who was shot in the arm inside Walmart and encountered her assailant face to face, told Kavia he looked like a policeman. I thought I was seeing a man with blonde hair, and I remember his shirt was black and his pants were color khaki. And then when I saw him on television, on the news, his hair is black. Calderon's recollection may be correct or may not be. Has it been honestly investigated? The worst possibility would be investigators pre-contaminated with a priori belief that mass shootings are only done by lone nuts, a pervasive theme running through official explanations of these events. Ultimately, unaltered, high definition video footage, and I want to say this, we have evidence that Ann Ogle and Thomas Kane were studying mass shootings. They were studying that. I think that's very interesting. Um, Ultimately, unaltered high definition video footage from the dozens of ceiling mounted and outdoor cameras showing Crucius as a sole shooter would render all of these questions mute. Detectives collected those digital files from Walmart's assistant manager within an hour or so after the shooting. And within a couple hours, a police source had already released the two infamous grainy potato camera stills that were told is the shooter entering the store. To date, those have been the only production of surveillance images from the scene that police have seen fit to provide the public. To date, those have been the only production of surveillance images from the scene that police have seen fit to provide to the public. Where is the rest of the footage capturing the shooter's path through the store entrance to the exit? What about the front, rear, and side exteriors, or even just the front interior where Adrian and Elvira placed the shooters? We don't need to see the gore, and we don't need to see victims' faces. Those can easily be blurred out, but we need to see the evidence that 1 to 3 murderers and any other accomplices didn't get away. If the reports of gunfire way over at the mall really were Crucius, footage exists of him running or driving there, Did he shoot at other people along the way? Did other people shoot at him? And if that wasn't him, then what was it? Was it another bad guy? Was it a good guy pulling the trigger by mistake? Was it a carefully crafted hoax? Was it a diversion? Was it a Fort Bliss uh, training mission? What was it, right? I found no reports of a good guy with a gun at any point firing a weapon or even drawing one, nor has any such individual come forward. In addition to surveillance footage, ballistics results tracing each recovered bullet to Crucius' weapon also might help put the reports of other shooters to rest as crazy hallucinations or maybe some kind of cruel hoax. What really happened August 3rd, 2019 in El Paso is still very much an open question. I can't draw, nor do I encourage readers to draw any final conclusions from such incomplete evidence. The same can't be said, however, for the purveyors of the official narrative. Okay, that's very well said. Okay, let's do that. Let's look at the evidence and see where it takes us. And I'm hoping it takes us, well, I know it takes us to Richard's killers. Um, why everyone needs to ask these questions, the most obvious reason, all responsible parties must be brought to justice. Releasing information such as descriptions and videos or stills of all subjects to enlist the public's help apprehending them is standard law enforcement practice. Officials having credible evidence of additional subjects at large who fail to inform the public become accessories after the fact and bear some responsibility for future crimes that they might commit. We're entitled to answers. All law enforcement work is publicly funded solely for the purpose of serving and protecting the public. The information police gather is public record, with reasonable exceptions to safeguard officers and sources, methods, and overall integrity of their investigations. Also, detectives generally keep certain details about a crime close to their vests in order to see whether a suspect knows no public details about the crime, which can help establish a guilt or at least knowledge, or B, weed out false confessors, according to Lee Laughlin, author of the book of Police Procedures and Investigations. You can see that on Via Slate. But information should never be withheld to protect police officials or others from embarrassment or other consequences of failure or corruption. And thank you. Get out those records. So Richard's case is not the only case that they're withholding information, right? Timeline and video evidence can show whether the response was timely and effective. Maybe in my next piece, I'll discuss the widely varying accounts of the duration of the shooting, which range from 6 minutes to around 30. People are wondering when precisely the shooting stopped, before or after the police arrived, or if after, how long after. Could the police and feds have stopped it? We've seen this movie before, evidence of multiple subjects that quickly get collapsed into a standardized, usually highly politicized lone nut, or in some cases, two lone nuts. Narratives are a common feature of terror attacks, including Parkland, San Bernardino, Aurora, Colorado, Columbine, the Oklahoma City bombing, and others, clear back to the JFK and RFK and King assassinations. With some such cases, also, we've gathered abundant evidence that helpless patsies, useful idiots, were in fact covertly manipulated to either commit the crime or to take the fall for those who did. One rule of thumb to identify covert or false flag terrorism is that the party that gets blamed is never the party that benefits from the attack. That's that needs repeating. The party that gets blamed is never the party that benefits from the attack. And these useful patsies, um, and God is not going to take kindly for the use of individuals with autism. Yeah. The war on terror has provided numerous examples of FBI or other agencies actually cultivating and unleashing terror plots to foil or not. So, conspiracy questions and theories exist because conspiracies exist. Conspiracies exist. And absolutely, in Richard's case, absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind that they conspired together to cover up the murder of Richard. When covered up descends and questions go unanswered, officially unsanctioned theories from the plausible to the truly bizarre and impossible follow like night and day. In light of history as well as the facts in this case, it's irresponsible not to ask a lot of questions. It's equally irresponsible not to demand evidence now before another potential patsy, instantly convicted in the media, gets railroaded through a show trial or experiences an Epsteinian demise in custody, cementing the official narrative and possibly nailing the coffin shut on justice. Well written. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. So I know that was really long, and that's why I wanted to do it because um, I've had Team Fiber Trail say, "Oh, I don't know, that's a really long article," and but it is so worth listening to. And if you have to drive to work or whatever, I hope you can listen to this live stream that will be saved in many different places, and you can listen to that article. I think I just wanted to help everyone out on that one because it is pretty time consuming. But it's very, very important. And at the end, it makes very, very good, very, very good. I mean, the whole thing is an A plus plus, right? It's an A plus plus. You can't argue with that article at all. He wants to get to the truth. He's asking questions and he's saying it's irresponsible to not ask questions. And, we fully agree with him because we want to know where our son is and we want to know why they covered up this murder um, and why Richard's uh, case is totally connected through Bliss Avenue with the Walmart mass shooting. We'd like to know these things. So, yeah, so we thank you very much for coming on, and God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.